Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Education Board.
Hello students, welcome to TV learning programs. My name is Aggrey, teacher of economics. Today I'm going to learn with senior 5 students. And we are going to learn on unit 5, which is money. And our lesson today, we are going to talk about money supply. I expect you learners, at the end of the lesson, you should be able to explain the factors determining money supply. What is money supply? What is meant by money supply? Money supply is defined as the amount of money in circulation in a given time. The amount of money circulating in the hands of the public. The amount of money that is in circulation is what is meant by money supply. And it considers currency notes, coins, and demand deposits in commercial banks by the public and quasi-money. Now, money supply is that amount of money that is circulating within the economy. That the amount of money that is in circulation is what is meant by money supply. Now, we have said it considers demand deposits. What are demand deposits? Money supply considers demand deposits. Demand deposits. And demand deposits, these are funds held by, demand deposits, these are funds held in a bank account. These are funds held in a bank account from which deposited funds can be withdrawn at any time. From which deposited funds can be withdrawn. Can be withdrawn at any time. That can be withdrawn at any time. That can be withdrawn at any time. At any time. Those are demand deposits. And demand deposits is part of money supply, especially money that is deposited on the current account. Money that is deposited on the current account can be withdrawn at any time. That is why we are saying that demand deposits are part of money supply, because you can withdraw this money at any time. And even it includes quasi-money. Quasi-money, all near money. And what is quasi-money? Quasi-money is money that can easily be converted into cash. Money that can easily be converted into cash is part of money supply. The amount of money that can easily be converted into cash is money supply. Now, quasi-money is part of money supply. Quasi-money is money that can easily be converted. Is money that can easily be converted. That can easily be converted into cash. That can easily be converted into cash. E.g., an example, checks. An example are checks. Now, checks can be easily converted into cash. Now, money that can easily, near money, that can easily be converted into cash is part of money supply. And after understanding the concept of money supply, the amount of money circulating in the hands of the public, there are types of money supply. And the types of money supply, there are two types of money supply, which include, the first one is exogenous money supply. Exogenous or discretionary money supply. And what is exogenous money supply? This is money supply which is fixed and determined by the issuing authority, like the central bank. Now, exogenous money supply, it is money supply that is determined by the central bank, the monetary authority, the financial institution that belongs to the government. It is the one that determines money supply. Now, the money supply that is determined by the central bank. Now, on exogenous money supply, the central bank can decide to print more money or to print less money. It is the one to take the decision, whether to increase money supply or to reduce money supply. Exogenous, it does not depend on the level of economic activities. It is determined by the monetary authority, which is the central bank. The central bank can print more money or can print less money because it's the one which decides on how to determine money supply. The second type of money supply is endogenous money supply. Now, endogenous money supply is different from exogenous money supply. With endogenous money supply, this is money supply determined by the level of economic activities. Endogenous, it is determined by the level of economic activities. The higher the level of economic activities, the higher the money supply. And the lower the level of economic activities, the lower the money supply. Now, when there are more economic activities in the country, the government will print more money. The central bank prints more money to finance these economic activities. When there are less economic activities in the country, the central bank will print less money because to finance these less economic activities. Now, money supply that depends on the level of economic activities is what we call endogenous money supply. It depends on the level of economic activities. When the economic activities are increasing, the central bank prints more money to finance high levels of economic activities. Now, the type of money supply that depends on the level of economic activities is what we call endogenous money supply. Then, after understanding the types of money supply, there are factors that determine money supply, or there are factors that influence money supply. Factors determining money supply, or factors influencing money supply. All factors affecting money supply. And when we are explaining these factors that determine money supply, or the factors that affect money supply, we have to explain two sides. What increases money supply and what reduces money supply? What leads to high money supply and what leads to low money supply? We are explaining two sides, showing the positive effect and showing the negative effect. The first factor that determines money supply is the level of economic activities. And how does the level of economic activities determine money supply? The higher the level of economic activities, the higher the money supply. And the lower the level of economic activities, the lower the money supply. When there are more economic activities, the central bank will print more money to finance high levels of economic activities, which will increase money supply. And when there are low levels of economic activities, the central bank will print less money to finance less economic activities, which reduces money supply. The second factor that determines money supply is buying and selling of security by the central bank. Buying and selling of security by the central bank determines money supply. When the central bank buys security, like bonds, from the public, it increases money supply. But when it sells, it reduces money supply. And what is a bond? Government securities, like treasury bills and bonds. What is a bond? What is a bond? Now, a bond refers to a debt instrument. A bond refers to a debt instrument. A debt instrument issued by the government. A debt instrument issued by the government to raise funds from the public. That is what we call a bond. It is a debt instrument issued by the government to raise funds from the public. to raise funds from the public. And it has a maturity period. Now, when the central bank sells bonds to the public, and people are investing, they're investing in bonds, they're going to give out money to the government. And when they are giving out money to the government, they are reducing money supply, in circulation. The government is reducing money supply in circulation because it is selling bonds to the public. Now, people are buying bonds to the public. When people buy bonds to the public, they're going to give money. They're giving out money to the government. When they're giving out money to the government, they are reducing money supply in circulation. But when the central bank buys, when the government buys bonds from the public, now the government is going to issue out money. It is going to give out money to people. When the government is giving out money, because it is buying bonds, when it gives out money, it is increasing money supply. That is how buying and selling of securities by the central bank affects or determines money supply. The third factor that determines money supply, it is balance of payment surplus or a deficit. When the export earnings are greater than the import expenditure, export earnings, that is a BOP surplus. A BOP surplus, a balance of payment surplus. A balance of payment surplus, refers to a situation, a balance of payment surplus refers to a situation where export earnings, are greater than expenditure on imports, And when a country is earning more revenues as a result of selling its goods and services to other countries, this will increase money supply because there are more incomes generated from other countries. Now, when earnings are greater than expenditure on imports, the country is earning more incomes from abroad. This will increase money supply. But a BOP deficit, where the expenditure, because a BOP deficit refers to a situation where expenditure on imports is greater than earnings on exports. A balance of payment deficit, a balance of payment deficit, a BOP deficit. A balance of payment deficit refers to a situation where expenditure on imports, is greater than earnings on exports. And a balance of payment deficit reduces money supply in circulation because a country is spending more. There is a lot of money that goes out to buy imports. And when the expenditure are greater than the earnings, the country is spending more money to buy goods and services from other countries. Now, when the country is spending more money to buy goods and services from other countries, this is reducing money supply in circulation. A BOP surplus increases money supply, while a BOP deficit reduces money supply in circulation. The next factor that determines money supply, it is the rate of printing money by the central bank. If the central bank prints more money, money supply increases. But if the central bank prints less, money supply reduces. Now, when the central bank prints more money and supplies it to the economy, this will increase money supply, the rate of printing. The central bank is printing more money and it is supplying more money to the public. This will increase money supply. But when the central bank prints less and supplies less to the public, this will reduce money supply in circulation. The next factor that determines money supply, it is the rate of capital inflows and outflows. The rate of capital inflows and outflows. Capital inflows increase money supply, but foreign capital outflow reduces money supply. And what is a capital inflow? What is the difference? What is the difference between capital inflow and capital outflow? Capital inflow refers to the amount of money or capital that is coming into the country, Capital inflow refers to the amount of money. Capital inflow refers to the amount of money, refers to the amount of money, refers to the amount of money or capital coming into the country, coming into the country. Capital inflow, the amount of money or capital coming into the country. While a capital outflow refers to the amount of money. A capital outflow refers to the amount of money. A capital outflow refers to the amount of money or capital that goes out of the country. That goes out of the country. Now, capital inflows, high capital inflows increase money supply. Money is coming into the country, which supplements on the amount of money that is available. Now, when money is coming into the country, supplementing on the amount of money that is available, this increases money supply. But capital outflow reduces money supply because money is going out of the country. Like if Rwandans are investing abroad, this is going to reduce money supply in circulation because they are taking money out of the country to invest in other countries. Now, high capital outflow reduces money supply in circulation. The next factor that determines money supply, it is the level of monetization of the economy. The level of monetization of the economy. When the economy uses money as a medium of exchange, money supply increases. While the use of barter trade leads to low money in supply. When the economy uses money as a medium of exchange, transactions are carried out by the use of money. Now, when transactions are carried out by the use of money, this will increase money supply because people are going to spend money. Money is moving from one hand to another hand. This is increasing money supply because transactions are carried out by money. But when there is barter trade, because barter trade, that is the exchange of a good for another good, or a service for another service. Now, when there is use of barter trade, this will reduce money supply because people are not exchanging money. Money is not moving from one hand to another hand. Now, the use of barter trade reduces money supply in circulation, and the use of money to carry out transactions increases money supply in circulation. The next factor that determines money supply or affects money supply, it is the rate of credit creation by commercial banks. When there is high rate of credit creation, there will be increase in money supply, while a low credit creation leads to low money supply. And what is credit creation? What is credit creation? Credit creation. What is credit creation? Credit creation refers to the process through which commercial banks create credit by issuing out loans to customers by the use of checks. Credit creation refers to the process. Credit creation refers to the process. through which commercial banks, the process through which commercial banks, the process through which commercial banks create credit, commercial banks create credit by issuing out loans, loans to customers by the use of checks. By issuing out loans to customers by the use of checks. 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 That is what is meant by credit creation. The process through which commercial banks create credit by issuing out loans to customers. Now, when there is high rate of credit creation, commercial banks are giving out loans to many people. When the commercial banks are giving out loans to many people, this is going to increase money supply. But low rate of credit creation, commercial banks are going to lend to few people. When they are lending to few people, this is reducing money supply in circulation. That is how the rate of credit creation affects money supply. The last factor that affects money supply or determines money supply, it is the rate of government borrowing. And borrowing, this is the taking and using of money under an agreement to pay it back. Taking and using money under an agreement to pay it back is what we call borrowing. Now, high rate of government borrowing increases money supply, while low government borrowing leads to low money supply. Now, high rate of government, excessive borrowing of money from other countries or from international financial institutions, this will increase money supply. When there is excessive borrowing, high rate of borrowing, because when a country borrows from international financial institutions, this supplements on the amount of money that is available, which increases money supply, like excessive borrowing, high rate of borrowing. But when there is low rate of borrowing, this reduces money supply in circulation. That is how the rate of government borrowing affects money supply, or determines money supply. Before I end the lesson, learners of Senior 5, I want to leave you with the homework. And it is one question. As you're writing down the homework, I can read through the question. The question is, examine the factors limiting money supply in an economy. Examine the factors limiting money supply in an economy. Note this. When you're explaining these factors limiting money supply, you have to phrase your points in a negative way. Factors limiting. On factors limiting, we are looking at one side, not like factors determining money supply. Factors limiting money supply. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being attentive, learners of Senior 5. We meet next time. Thank you.